The first rays of morning sunlight had barely touched the quiet suburban street when Mark Thompson heard the all-too-familiar sound of tires crunching against his meticulously maintained driveway. He didn't need to look out the window to know who it was. Karen Rodriguez, his next-door neighbor, was once again treating his private property like her personal parking lot. This wasn't just an occasional inconvenience. For the past 8 months, Karen had transformed Mark's pristine concrete driveway into her personal extended parking space. Her oversized white SUV would appear without warning, blocking his garage, limiting his access, and testing the very limits of his patience. What made it worse was her infuriating sense of entitlement, a smug confidence that seemed to say she was doing nothing wrong. Mark had tried everything. Polite conversations turned into heated arguments. Friendly notes left on her windshield became increasingly stern written warnings. He contacted the Homeowners Association, local parking enforcement, and even consulted with a lawyer. Each avenue led to the same frustrating dead end. Karen would temporarily back off only to return with her vehicular invasion days or weeks later. The most recent incident had pushed him over the edge. Last weekend, Mark had an important delivery scheduled, the vintage motorcycle he spent months restoring. The delivery truck arrived to find Karen's SUV blocking the entire driveway, forcing the driver to reschedule. Additional fees and inconvenience were the final straw. As he stood in his kitchen, clutching a half-empty coffee mug, Mark watched Karen stride confidently to her vehicle. She was dressed in her typical corporate attire, a crisp navy blazer, tailored black pants, and those ridiculously expensive high heels she seemed to wear as a status symbol. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and she carried a designer briefcase that probably cost more than Mark's monthly mortgage payment. Their neighborhood was supposed to be a model of suburban tranquility. Perfectly manicured lawns, identical mailboxes, and an unspoken code of neighborly respect. But Karen had been systematically destroying that peace, one unauthorized parking incident at a time. Mark had always considered himself a patient man. As a project manager for a large engineering firm, he was used to solving complex problems with strategic thinking and measured responses. But this was personal. This was his home, the one space where he should feel completely in control. As Karen pulled out of his driveway, her SUV's taillights casting a brief red glow on his property, something inside Mark snapped. No more polite requests. No more bureaucratic channels. He was going to solve this problem his way, and he was going to enjoy it every single moment of it. Little did Karen know, Mark had been planning his revenge for weeks. The materials were already ordered. The strategy was meticulously mapped out, and most importantly, he had a perfect alibi that would keep him far away from any potential suspicion. This wasn't just about a driveway anymore. This was about reclaiming his space, his dignity, and sending a message that would echo through their quiet suburban street for years to come. The first step in Mark's plan began with careful preparation. He spent an entire weekend researching masonry techniques, ordering supplies online, and strategically planning his approach. The local hardware store didn't bat an eye when he purchased pallets of high-quality bricks, industrial-strength mortar, and an array of construction tools. To anyone watching, he looked like just another homeowner preparing for a weekend renovation project. His research had been thorough. Mark discovered that while permanently blocking a driveway could potentially violate local ordinances, a temporary obstruction, especially one that appeared to be part of a legitimate construction project, was far more nuanced. He carefully studied the neighborhood association bylaws, consulting with a lawyer friend who confirmed there were enough legal gray areas to provide him some protection. Karen's pattern was predictable. Every weekday morning, she would arrive at precisely 6:45 a.m., park her SUV on his driveway, and walk the short distance to the commuter train station. She worked for a large marketing firm downtown, and her morning routine was as rigid as her personality. Mark had been tracking her movements for weeks, documenting each unauthorized parking with timestamp photographs and GPS coordinates. The timing was crucial. Mark had already arranged for an extended vacation, a 2-week trip to a remote cabin in the mountains of Colorado. His work had been meticulously planned, with all projects completed and delegated well in advance. No one would find it suspicious that he was taking time off, especially after the stress of the past few months. What Karen didn't know was that Mark had something special planned for her beloved parking spot. He began by carefully laying a foundation, ensuring that the base was solid and level. The bricks he selected were not just any ordinary construction materials. He chose a specific type, decorative yet sturdy, matching the aesthetic of the neighborhood while being incredibly difficult to quickly remove. Each brick was carefully selected, measured, and positioned with the precision of a surgeon. The mortar was his secret weapon, a special blend that would set quickly but look completely natural, as if it had been part of a legitimate construction project. Mark worked methodically, wearing work gloves and a baseball cap, looking like any other homeowner doing home improvements. Neighbors occasionally walked by, offering casual waves or brief conversations. Mark was careful to maintain his usual friendly demeanor, discussing the weather, local news, and making offhand comments about some minor driveway repairs he was planning. No one suspected anything unusual. As the first layer of bricks took shape, Mark couldn't help but smile. This was more than just a revenge plot. It was a carefully orchestrated response to months of disrespect. He was sending a message, not just to Karen, but to anyone who might think of taking advantage of his property. The irony wasn't lost on him. Karen, who prided herself on being a successful marketing executive, was about to become the victim of a meticulously planned strategic operation. Mark had transformed his frustration into a work of art, a brick-by-brick testament to his patience finally reaching its breaking point. By the time he was finished, the driveway would look like it was undergoing a professional renovation. Neat, precise, seemingly innocent, but completely impassable. And you would be long gone, enjoying the mountain air and the sweet satisfaction of knowing exactly what was waiting for Karen when she returned. The morning of his departure arrived with a crisp autumn chill. Mark double-checked his luggage, ensuring everything was perfectly prepared for his mountain retreat. His neighbor, Tom Richardson, helped load his truck, making small talk about the upcoming winter and the local high school football team's recent winning streak. Doing some driveway work? Tom asked, noticing the neat stack of bricks partially hidden near the garage. Mark offered a casual smile. Just some minor repairs I've been meaning to get to. Thought I'd take care of it before the winter sets in. Tom nodded, accepting the explanation without a second thought. This was the beauty of suburban life, a veneer of trust and minimal curiosity that Mark was about to exploit. As he drove away and Mark's GPS set for the Colorado mountains, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. The first phase of his plan was complete. The bricks were perfectly positioned, the mortar carefully applied. From a distance, it would look like a legitimate home improvement project right up until Karen tried to park her SUV. Meanwhile, Karen Rodriguez was experiencing her typical morning routine. She navigated the morning traffic with the same aggressive precision she applied to every aspect of her life. A high-powered marketing executive, she viewed the world as something to be conquered, manipulated, and controlled. Her parking on Mark's driveway was just another example of her belief that rules were meant for other people. As she turned onto their street, her mind was already racing through the day's marketing presentations and client meetings. She was so focused on her mental to-do lists that she almost didn't notice something was different about Mark's driveway. Almost. The first hint of something unusual came when she slowed her SUV, expecting to slide into her usual parking spot. The neat row of bricks stopped her cold. At first, she thought it might be a temporary construction barrier. But as she looked closer, she realized this was something more permanent. Karen's perfectly manicured hand gripped the steering wheel tighter. Her morning routine, her sacred, immovable routine, had been disrupted. She pulled her car to the side of the road, her mind racing with a combination of confusion and rising anger. She stepped out of the SUV, her designer heels clicking against the pavement as she approached the bricked-up driveway. Up close, the work was impressive. The bricks were laid with professional precision, the mortar smooth and even. To an untrained eye, it would look like a legitimate home improvement project. But Karen knew better. Her first instinct was to call Mark, but a quick check of her phone revealed he was out of reach. No surprise, given his tendency to take sudden, extended vacations. A work email notification popped up, momentarily distracting her. She'd deal with this later. For now, she was going to be late for her morning train. As she hurried down the street, Karen's mind was already plotting her revenge. She didn't know the full extent of Mark's plan, but she was determined to find out. This was war, and she was not about to back down. Little did she know, Mark was watching everything unfold. Not in person, but through a carefully positioned security camera he had installed weeks earlier. Each moment was being recorded, each reaction captured with digital precision. The first volley had been fired, and the battle was just beginning. 3 days passed, and Karen's frustration had transformed into a calculated plan of retaliation. She wasn't the type to let a perceived slight go unanswered, especially not from Mark Thompson, a neighbor she had long viewed as nothing more than an obstacle to her convenience. Her first move was strategic. She contacted the Homeowners Association, filing a formal complaint about the unauthorized construction on Mark's property. The HOA representative, a retired accountant named Gerald Matthews, listened carefully to her meticulously crafted narrative. She portrayed Mark's brick installation as a potential safety hazard and a violation of community aesthetic standards. To bolster her case, Karen began documenting everything. She took photographs of the brick driveway from multiple angles, measuring the precise dimensions and capturing every minute detail. Her marketing skills translated perfectly into evidence gathering. She knew how to build a compelling case. But the HOA's response wasn't what she expected. Gerald seemed oddly noncommittal, suggesting he would look into the matter, but offering no immediate resolution. This was unusual. Karen was accustomed to getting her way quickly and decisively. Unbeknownst to her, Mark had already anticipated this move. Before leaving for his vacation, he had spoken with Gerald, providing documentation of his ongoing home improvement project and even obtaining a verbal acknowledgement that the work appeared to be within community guidelines. Frustrated but undeterred, Karen escalated her approach. She began reaching out to local authorities, filing a complaint with the city's Building and Zoning Department. Her connections, cultivated through years of networking and professional achievements, were extensive. She was certain she could find someone who would force Mark to remove the brick obstruction. What Karen didn't know was that Mark had been equally thorough. He had already secured the necessary permits for driveway renovation, filed them electronically before his departure, and ensured all documentation was in perfect order. Each potential avenue of attack she considered had been carefully blocked. Meanwhile, Mark was enjoying his mountain retreat, periodically checking the security camera footage. He watched with a mixture of amusement and satisfaction as Karen's attempts to circumvent his plan became increasingly desperate. The security footage captured everything. Karen pacing in front of her house, Karen making phone calls, Karen taking measurements. Each moment was a testament to her growing frustration, a frustration Mark found increasingly satisfying. But Karen Rodriguez was not someone who gave up easily. Her marketing career had taught her that every problem had a solution, and she was determined to find hers. If official channels wouldn't work, she would create her own solution. On the fourth night, as the mountain wind whistled around Mark's remote cabin, Karen was formulating a plan that would make her previous attempts look like mere preliminary skirmishes. She had discovered something about Mark, a potential weakness that could change everything. Her fingers traced a name on her laptop screen, a name that represented an opportunity for revenge far more significant than a blocked driveway. Mark had no idea what was coming. The real battle was about to begin. The information Karen discovered was both mundane and potentially explosive. Through a series of carefully placed phone calls and strategic LinkedIn connections, she learned about Mark's upcoming performance review at his engineering firm. Her research revealed that Mark was currently being considered for a significant promotion, a senior project management role that would catapult his career to new heights. Karen's plan was elegantly simple yet potentially devastating. She began reaching out to Mark's professional contacts, subtly planting seeds of doubt about his character and professional integrity. Her marketing expertise made her a master of narrative manipulation. Each conversation was carefully crafted, each statement designed to raise questions without directly making accusations. To Tom Richardson, their mutual neighbor, she suggested Mark might be experiencing personal issues that could affect his work performance. To a colleague she managed to connect with on LinkedIn, she hinted at potential ethical concerns about Mark's recent project management approaches. Each conversation was a calculated chess move designed to create maximum doubt with minimal direct involvement. What Karen didn't know was that Mark had always been one step ahead in their ongoing conflict. The security camera at his house continued to capture her movements, recording her increasingly desperate attempts to retaliate. Each of her phone calls, each of her strategic movements was being carefully documented. Mark's mountain retreat was more than just a vacation. It was a strategic observation point. Using a sophisticated remote monitoring system he had installed before leaving, he could access everything. Phone logs, camera feeds, even neighborhood gossip. The irony wasn't lost on him that Karen, who had spent months invading his personal space, was now finding herself under constant surveillance. As the days passed, Karen's frustration grew. The brick barricade remained immovable, a silent testament to Mark's careful planning. Her attempts to have it removed had been systematically blocked at every turn. The HOA had essentially told her to wait for Mark's return. The city building department found no violations in his carefully filed permits. But Karen was not someone who accepted defeat easily. Her next move would be her most audacious yet. She began preparing a comprehensive dossier, a collection of carefully curated evidence that suggested Mark's driveway renovation was more than just a simple home improvement project. She was creating a narrative that would paint Mark as a potential threat to the neighborhood. Little did she know, Mark had anticipated even this extreme response. The final piece of his plan was about to be set in motion. While Karen believed she was gaining the upper hand, Mark was preparing a counterattack that would make her current efforts look like a minor skirmish. As the mountain sun began to set, casting long shadows across Mark's remote cabin, he allowed himself a small smile. The game was far from over, and he was just getting started. Karen had no idea what was coming next.